Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi and welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a weekly show about all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. I'm your host Macca 19, and joining me as co-host, as always, I feel he's itching for a bitching tonight. He's a little bit somber. We're talking with Fishing Rick. How are you, mate?
How you going, motherfucker?
Oh, great. That's fantastic. I'm very well. And yourself?
Not bad, actually. I thought I'd try and throw you off. Did it work?
Always.
I'm excited. My good mate is on the show tonight too, so it should be very exciting.
That's it. Back on the podcast, we're speaking with Crazy Big Al. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, Macca.
What's wrong with me? Why can't you say hello to me?
Oh, hello, Rick. I don't want to make you feel left out.
That's better.
You're still upset about Jasper, so that's okay. I'll give you a photo.
Now. You got to behave yourself or you don't come back on the show. All right? Macca makes out he's got the power. Macca thinks he's got the power, but everything has to be run by me eventually.
This is true.
Good to have you on, mate. Good to hear those dulcet tones.
Oh, thanks, mate.
I don't know if two of our dopey dulcet tones work well on the one podcast, but you're back for a second time, so something must be right.
That's right. Look, before we get started, I think it's pretty important to spend a couple of moments talking about something that's very, very sad. It's the passing of one of our long-time Big Footy Forum members in Natman. He was a wonderful Port Adelaide supporter and someone who posted on our forum for 10 years. He was quite a straight-down-the-line fellow in his posts. But also had a very dry sense of humour, a fantastic self-deprecating sense of humour. He was a big supporter of our forum and put money towards all three of our player sponsors, as well as the foundation sponsorship in 2001 as well. And because of that, a number of us on the forum got to meet Natman and get to know him on a bit of a personal level as well. Boys, what are your thoughts, mate? Very sad.
Of course it's sad. It's sad when anyone passes away, but he's one of our own, isn't he? You know, and he was a valuable contributor to the board. And like you said, I didn't meet him in person, but I had a few private conversations with him, and he never let slip of any of his predicaments. So he kept it to himself, and but he was a great contributor and highly valued. And I was very shocked and disappointed to see the Ford write that. So my condolences go out to all his family at this point in time.
Indeed.
Yeah, no, it was pretty sad. Like, for a number of years he's been there, and reading his posts has been, something that I enjoyed. He always was, as Macca said, straight down the line. So it is very sad. I was completely shocked when it was posted there by Ford. So, my condolences go out to him and his family. Well, his family, yeah.
All right, well, let's have a moment's silence for Natman. All right, well, let's get on to our love and hate, which is one thing we loved, one thing we hated in and around Port Adelaide this week. Crazy Big Al, mate, I'll start with you. What's your love and hate?
I love that, we were basically a man down on the weekend, and for probably 3 quarters went down, and we were still able to keep on fighting. I love that we were able to still stay in the contest, even when we were rotation down for 3 quarters of the game.
Yep. Love that one. And your hate?
That we are still not seen as a genuine, premiership contender. I don't know what we can do. We've beaten Geelong, Fremantle, Hawthorn. We can only play who we play against, and people keep on saying that we're not a genuine threat. They don't honestly see us as a genuine threat. And even when we played Sydney at the SCG, they had one player out in Tippett, and that's why it's so close. I just don't understand why people can't give us credit. I'm not saying we're going to win the flag. I hope we do, but I just don't think we're getting enough respect.
No, that's fair enough. That's something that a lot of us have had a bit of an issue with, and I don't know, in the end I think the respect will come. All we've got to do is keep winning, keep playing against who we're playing and doing a good job, and the respect will come in time, I think.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
That's it. Rick, what about you, mate? What's your love and hate?
I loved our courage and endeavour and our never give up attitude. I thought, even though we lost and we don't like losing, I thought there was a magnificent attribute from the game on Saturday.
Yep. And your hate?
I'll say it very quickly so I can get 3 in one hit. Mitchell bumping, Pittard haters, and the bloody Victorian bias with fixturing. And again, now the rumour is that Bulldogs and North Melbourne will get the Easter Friday game. Sick of it, sick of the underwhelming teams playing, and it needs to be proper blockbuster games. And as I posted today, I reckon they should reward the top 8 teams every year with the blockbuster fixtures and distribute the tickets from the great gates to all 18 sides for equalisation, but at least that way you're rewarding the teams that make the finals from the previous year, which will give you better fixtures.
Yep, absolutely. Got to agree with that. I don't know why, just on the fixturing, I don't know why they don't do a rolling fixture like they do in, say, the EPL, and we've got it in the last round in the AFL, where they decide on the time slots about a month out or something like that. I don't know why we don't do that sort of a month ahead.
Well, from my understanding is that they, the actual TV rights want these big games. That's why on Friday nights, generally at least one Victorian side will be in the game each week, and like they want the big blockbuster games on their preferred time slots. That's from what I understand.
Yep.
Well, it's because Victorians will only watch Victorians. And I think if we go way back in time, I think it might have been even back like in 2005 or something, where they, I remember reading they had a showdown on Saturday free to air, and at night time, and it was a big TV rating fizzer because back then, Victorians only wanted to watch Victorian teams. But I think that mentality might be shifting. And I mean, let's face the facts. If you were a Victorian and you had to weigh up 2 games, and one of them was Port Sydney or Essendon and Melbourne, really, if you're a neutral observer, which game would you rather watch? And if it's really Essendon and Melbourne, man, they've got to take a look at themselves.
Absolutely. My love for this week is the fact that we just kept on coming on the weekend. We always say we'll never ever give up, and we didn't. It was so close to stealing it at the end. We just never drop our heads, and we can always believe that we're in the game. In years gone by, I think, when Franklin kicked some of those goals in the last quarter, we would have dropped our heads and we would have thought that getting back to even in the last quarter was good enough, and we would have still lost by sort of 4, 5, 6, 7 goals in the end. But not this group. We fought it out to the end. Also, we made some mistakes, and it's definitely a game that we could have won. And I was definitely gutted after the siren. I just had a great sense of pride in this group that, yes, we are good enough to take it up to every single team in the league this year.
Good call. And sometimes we can learn more from our mistakes than what we do from the victories.
Absolutely. And my hate this week, it's just another week with another injury to a key player. And whilst Hartlett might not miss a game, having a fit Hammer on the weekend who wasn't limping around for 2 quarters before being subbed out would have been a huge weapon on Saturday, and one that we definitely missed.
We got the power to win, power to roll, come on, for Adelaide aggression.
Let's go straight into our AFL review. It's our second loss for the year, this time only by 4 points. We lost to Sydney 13 goals 16 to 14 goals 14. The multiple goal scorers, Jay Schultz had 4, Gus Monfries kicked 3, and White and Wingard kicked 2 each. Crazy Big Al, you're at the game on the weekend, mate. Do you want to give us a quick overview?
Okay. Well, we started out not great. Like, they got out of the blocks a bit with some pretty strong play, and got out to a quick couple of goal lead, and I was thinking, oh crikey, I'm in for a long day here, because they were pretty aggressive at the contest, and their pressure was pretty immense to start with, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a long day, but we're able to wrestle it back a little bit. I think I'm not a guy that likes to say blame the umpires, but we were getting a bit hosed on the weekend. We had some really quite poor calls, especially one to Franklin just in front, which he didn't end up slotting, but I'm not sure how that was high. To pull a guy's Guernsey and get done for a high, I don't understand how that works, but it happens. But this players that I saw play really well. Now, Lobie was absolutely immense. He was a beast out there, getting us first use to the ball in the midfield. Robbie Gray, I'm not sure if that guy can do much more. He is so composed under pressure with the ball underneath, like under his feet. He's able to get that ball out and extract it like only a few that play the game. So he was amazing. And then the gut running that Ebert had, my goodness, he was phenomenal. Like
Incredible.
It's incredible because he's like in the halfback flank, and then the next minute he's getting the ball in the forward pocket. I'm like, this bloke, he just can't, he doesn't stop. He's like the Energizer Bunny, he just keeps on going and going. And like, he must be spent but that extra 50 metres that he gets himself in a position to make a contest, to get the ball in his hand, and he just keeps on doing it. It's repeat efforts. Like, it's not just once or twice a game. He does it about 20 or 30 times. Yeah. And even if it's just to lay a shepherd, like, it's just amazing and something that it's true Port Adelaide. He does it for his teammates. So he was fantastic. I thought Jack Homsch, like, people are panning him a bit, but his rebounding and defence I thought was pretty good. There was a couple of players that were a bit down on the weekend, and I'm not sure whether Mitchell's going to be in our team come finals time. I just think that his decision making is not great, and he doesn't have a good once he gets the ball, like, his disposal is poor. And under pressure, it's even worse. So I'm not sure whether he's someone that will come in finals.
You would think he'll be struggling, and especially with guys like Pollock coming back and maybe Andrew Moore, Benny Newton knocking on the door as well. I mean, there'll be plenty of other players to take his spot, you would think, come finals time.
Yeah, and the other one is Jasper. Now, I know Rick has a bit of burning. He's a bit of chubby there for Jasper, and he is a good player, but I'm not sure whether playing him in the back half is the best move for him. Now, he reminds me a lot of Adam Kingsley in the sense that you don't play him in the back pocket or on the back when he can cause. The television replay doesn't do justice for what he was actually doing, because he would hold onto the ball far too long and wouldn't kick it to the first option. Like, on the weekend, the television doesn't pan to the people that were free that he could have passed the ball to, but he doesn't. Like, he is good offensively for us. And, like, he's been a part of 2 or 3 goals on the weekend. I won't doubt that. But I'm not sure whether him playing in the back lines is best for us. So I'm thinking that, like, if they're going to persist with him in the back lines, he might not need to go back to the Maggies for a couple of weeks, get some confidence, and then come back into the side. So that's my weekend, but I really like that the boys kept on fighting it out for the week.
Absolutely. What do you reckon, Rick?
I think the game can, when it's so close as a result, the game can be defined in moments. I mean, if it's a 40-goal drubbing, you can do a lot of things. But when we lose by 4 points, we start looking at key moments in the game to see what went wrong and what could have been done or done better, or what's cost us. And clearly we didn't like Sydney's congestion in the first quarter. We really struggled with it. They had mass numbers around the ball. That would be right, wouldn't it, Al?
Yeah, that was there was like big swarms. It was like a rolling maul at points.
Yeah. And look, that's Sydney's style, isn't it? But what I thought, we hung in with the game. And it took us a little bit to adjust. And I was saying during the week on some of the replies to people where they were like, how could we not be full throttle from the get-go? I guess we played some lesser teams leading up to this game, and it doesn't matter what person you are, those teams with lesser intensity will decrease your intensity without realising. So when you step it back up again to a higher intensity game, that's going to take a little bit of time to adjust to. And it made me think about the advantage that maybe the Sydney, the Hawthorns and the Geelongs have had over the last 5 years, and to a lesser extent Collingwood. They're playing a lot of high intensity games. So if you think of Power Freak and Russell Ebert handball, they're talking about their high twitch fibres, so to speak. Those teams are really in tune with those sort of games. So for us as a lesser side coming up, there's still an adjustment period. And so Ken's done really well to get these boys so quickly to play to that higher intensity on a regular basis. So, and I think the next evolution of our side to pick that up, and they showed that against Sydney on the weekend. But after the first...
I actually, just to cut in there, I might be on my own here, but I actually thought we soaked up that pressure pretty well in the first quarter.
Yeah, absolutely, and we still had we still were attacking our own in our own way in that first quarter. It was very inefficient, and it's something you've brought up numerous times, and I've complained about too. Very efficient and poor delivery, especially in that first quarter. But after the first quarter, I think we really dominated Sydney. Possession-wise, we really brought it back by half-time. It was level. By the end of the game, we were winning the key stats. Now, if I just go to those moments and the stats for 1 minute, the stat that I think where we lost it, even though we won all the stats, Sydney had about 20 more 1%ers than what we did. And I think when you break it down, I think those 1%ers were probably the difference between winning and losing against the two sides. And I'm not going to take anything away from Sydney. They won, and well done to them. But we kicked 7 goals, 11 in the last half to their 8 goals, 2.
Yep.
Right? Now, if we want to pick out moments of composure, we've got the Mitchell lack of tackle or bump that we've spoken about ad nauseum on the forum, and I was very strong with my views, and I still am. I went back and looked at the first half again, and Kane had a very strong first half, but that lack of tackle, to me, I thought was more protectionism more than anything from Kane, and that's very un-Port Adelaide as far as I'm concerned. And I'd
might be a little bit of hyperbole, but that sort of mistake can cost someone an AFL career for a fringe player.
I think so. Look, I honestly would drop him for that, just as a role, as an example, that this isn't tolerated by our players at all. And I know I could be talking about something that's very harsh, but I mean, I don't want to bang on about Pittard or other people that make mistakes, because people taking the game on, you can sort of live with that. But when you're trying to protect yourself, that's very lonely-ish, isn't it?
I've got a thing here, sort of, why did we lose? What didn't we do well? And definitely number one was silly mistakes with and without the ball. I mean, we've spoken about Mitchell's non-tackle. There was 4 or 5 brain farts from Pittard. Lobie, Mitchell and Westhoff missing really crucial shots at goal in the last quarter, which you just have to nail. Carlisle's decision not to go at Franklin and try and corral him, which led to him kicking a couple of goals as well. We pretty well cost ourselves the win just with those silly errors. And kicking 4 goals 6 in the last quarter when we had 10 shots to 4. I thought we controlled that last quarter pretty well. They hit us on the rebound a few times, but we played it mostly in our forward half. We had a big chance to win and we just blew it. Simple as that. The other thing that I thought we didn't do too well was our inability to counteract their running defenders. Nick Malcheski and Reece Shaw had 57 touches and 16 rebounds between them. I thought they really led the way for the Swans. And I didn't think we made the most of our centre square dominance either. I mean, we won the hit-outs convincingly. We won the clearances convincingly. We had more inside 50s. But I didn't really think that our forward 50 entries were all that clean. Sydney did a great job in outnumbering our contests in the forward line. And also similar to Freo, I thought that there was a number of times in the game where we had these sort of quick snaps at goal with a couple of Swans sitting on their own in the goal square. Just mopping up an easy chest mark and running it out again. And that happened probably 5 or 6 times.
This is a question for our Macca. One thing that did annoy me, and I wonder if he noticed at the game, I noticed the Swans are becoming quite the pushy team.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, especially coming into the contest just beforehand. They'll just shove them, it happened all game, and it was something that the guy sitting next to me actually was mentioning it. So, it was something that I noticed during the game. I hadn't been aware of it in probably the first quarter. I saw there was a bit of it, and then the guy sitting next to me actually did mention that they are pushing us out of the contest a lot, and our guys didn't really stand that pressure. They allow themselves to get pushed far too often to get themselves out of that contest. And that just half out of the contest allowed them to, the Sydney players, particularly in our forward half, to get the ball and rebound. As you were saying about Shaw and Malcheski, and McVeigh as well. They had it on a string at one stage. I was just shaking my head going, oh my goodness, like it's either one of those three rebounding it out of the back half. And it happened quite regularly.
So we've spoken about what we... sorry, go on.
I was just going to ask Al as well, did the ground actually get slipperier as the game went on? Did it start chopping up or something? Because I know it seemed to be the third and fourth quarters around the edge of the square, especially the camera side of the ground. Players seemed to be slipping over a lot more as the game went on compared to earlier in the game.
Well, not that I could notice because I was down one particular edge, so I didn't notice much like that at all. But, yeah, so it looked like a pretty damn good ground, actually. So, yeah.
Mm.
We did fall over a lot. It's got to be said.
We did.
We did slip over at least a couple of dozen times.
Well, like in saying that, before the game, probably it was raining up till about an hour and a half before the game.
Okay.
So, like, it would have been wet underfoot, but I thought it had drained pretty well, but it still may have been soft. So, therefore, that could have been the reason, but I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, really.
Well, we've spoken about some of the reasons why we lost, but what were some of the things that we did well? Because we did only lose by under a kick. We had plenty of chances at the end there. We almost took a big mark in the last second to win the game. What were some of the things that we did well?
Well, I found that we just kept on fighting. We didn't care that, didn't matter what was happening. We just kept on fighting and just kept on grinding it out. And once we absorbed that pressure from that first quarter, we were able to get a bit back more on our terms and play our style of football. That's what I found that we did well, and that we were able to link up through the middle and get the ball on the rebounds. So, yeah, that's what I felt that we did well on the weekend.
Okay. And yourself, Rick?
Yeah, I thought our contested possession was a lot better than previous weeks. You know, we really extracted the ball a lot better, and we did try and take on our running game against them. And I thought we actually were the fitter side, and you could see that we were physically fitter and stronger than them, especially once the game started opening up after the first quarter. So therefore, and as you pointed out before, we really dominated that last quarter. And you could just tell the whole vibe of the game. And really, it was just, you know, Sydney executed in their moments in the last quarter just to keep themselves in front, and we didn't. But we were really on top of them, and it sort of backed in what we said in the preview. We do have the superior, I think we have the superior speed and fitness to Sydney, and I think the boys still showed that's the case. Robbie Gray was massive in that second quarter in the clearances in the middle, which really went a long way to keeping us in the game and getting us in the lead. You know, Brad Ebert was monumentally huge in all aspects of his game. Again, one of the key drivers to keeping us in the game. And as you pointed out, I thought Matty Lobe in the ruck was fantastic. And after the first quarter, he just dominated. And again, that was part of the reason that we were so good in the clearances. And I'm very optimistic about the return leg of this. And as you know, Macca, I've maintained this the whole time. I'm judging our performance against Sydney over the two legs, not the one leg. Because the SCG is a massive advantage.
Indeed. Definitely it is. I loved our attack of the contest. Even though we weren't as clean with the ball, I really loved what we were able to do to win it. I liked our ability to wrestle back control of the game a couple of times, especially when it looked like it may have gotten away from us. Certainly at the start of the second, we got back into the game. We kicked 3 goals in a row at the end of the third and the start of the fourth quarter, when it looked like the game was getting away from us a little bit during that third quarter. And of course that last minute rush in our forward line as well, where we were able to give ourselves a big chance of winning it in the last 10 seconds. And I really loved the job that we did on some of their ball winners. I mean, Kennedy had his lowest possession total for the year, so did Parker. Hanbury had no influence on the game at all. Jetta had, you know, not much influence either. We did some really good jobs on some of their key players.
Is it worth noting that Ebert actually played with Kennedy and sort of watched him and then ran off him? And obviously he really exposed Kennedy's accountability at the contest, didn't he?
I think so, yeah. I mean, that's probably Ebert's best game of AFL footy. I thought he absolutely tore him a new one, to be honest.
How was it at the ground? Did you pay much attention to the Kennedy-Ebert contest, Al?
I paid I paid attention to, because I didn't feel that, like, it wasn't a hard tag by any stretch of the imagination. He just played off of him. Yep. They played on each other basically at stoppages, and that was the way I felt that they had the matchup. But I felt that Kennedy had influence at points, but it was very minimal, and I was expecting like a display, and I thought that Ebert played him quite well at the stoppages and just exposed him for his two-way running, which isn't one of Kennedy's strong suits. He's just a big brute of a man that can like stand up in tackles and extract the ball. But Brad didn't allow him to play that style of game, but was actually able to burn him the other way. So I thought Brad, as Macca said, was the best game that I've seen Brad play. So I thought it was a monstrous effort, really.
Well, look, we've heard about Al's top five already. Who were your best players, Rick?
Look, I had Brad Ebert best on ground. I just thought he was fantastic. I mean, I'm not going to rattle off all the stats, but he was just so influential, and he just ran the whole game from beginning to end, and you can't do any more than that. He tried to will us over the line. Great captain's performance or vice-captain's performance. Robbie Gray was fantastic again. His centre clearance work, especially in that second quarter, was just outstanding and really drove us forward. So hats off to Robbie. I thought Matty Lobe really stood up. Macca, we've been pretty hard on him this year, but I was very, very happy with his around the ground work. Yep. He was exceptional. Brody had a good, solid game. I was happy with how he played, and it was good to see Jay Schilt stand up against one of the strongest sides and kick multiple goals, and I thought he was a great forward for us.
Yep, mine are very, very similar. My best player was Brad Ebert. Huge game, best at AFL level, massive influence. 40 touches and a goal. He had 9 clearances as well. He just kept going and going. And that last half, as you said, he almost wheeled us over the line there. Robbie Gray, what can you say? He just keeps on going. He didn't kick a goal this week, but he had a number of score involvements again and was just very consistent across all 4 quarters. Matty Lobe, that was definitely his big game. He followed up after his huge game last week and was even better this week. He had a couple of errors early and he missed that shot on goal. But I thought his tap work was first class, and around the ground he was fantastic. He had the most possessions he's ever had at AFL level. So he's definitely improving as the season goes on. Schultze, 4 goals, a huge effort at the SCG. And Gus Monfries, we do definitely miss him when he's out of the side. He's such a hard runner and just knows how to find it and where to run and where the goals are. He had a great game yesterday as well and kicked 3 goals. So they were my best 5 players.
Good call. Angus had a great game. I guess the other thing to point out too is I really question whether Travis Boak should have played on Saturday. I thought he still looked injured, and He was influential, but down on his normal output, and he still looked to be struggling to run. And surely we should be taking a no-risk approach with Travis and just giving him another week off. I would have thought that was the case.
In the second half, they played him a fair bit on the forward flank, and when he wasn't in the contest, he was fairly still proppy, like just walking around. You could tell him that he still had some discomfort there. So I'm not sure whether it was the right move. But at the end of the day, can we trust? Him and Virgo wouldn't have let him play if they didn't think he was up for it. But I still think he was a little underdone and could have done with the week off. But it is what it is, and we'll just move forward.
Yep.
And I just want to talk about one thing quickly before we move on. And I'm not going to talk about the calls of how shit Jasper is or whatever else. But there's one thing I want people to think about when they're asking for this guy to be dropped, and that is the question for Jasper in relation to his improvement is going to be at the speed of the game. So that means he's only going to improve at this higher tempo speed of AFL football. if people want him dropped to improve his game, his decision-making under pressure, dropping him to the SANFL isn't actually going to solve that, because that's going to be a lower tempo game, which is going to be actually easier for him, and actually it's not going to help him when it comes back. The only way he's going to improve his decision-making is in the AFL environment, and at the moment, while we're winning and winning well, we can carry that to a degree. In addition to that, it's we're in development phase with our team. Remember, we're pretty advanced for 2014 and probably a lot more advanced than what any of us expected to be. So we're still trying to get development into our players, your Tom Jonas, your Homch, your Pittard, your Impey, even your Matty Loeb. They're all in developmental stage, and so all these boys are only going to get better playing at the AFL level, not necessarily the SANFL level.
Yep.
And I agree on the premise of that, Rick, and I'll give you a hand off your soapbox now, but in the sense of Jasper, do you honestly think that his best position is in the back line? I'm not, and as I said earlier in the podcast, I think that he would be better suited on the wing or even in the on the half forward line, because he can't cost us goals with his decision making, and that's what they ended up doing. And I'm harp back on Adam Kingsley. When Kingsley went from the back line to the midfield is when he was a better player, and I'm not sure that Jasper with his decision making is right for our back line.
Well, I'd argue there's no room for Jasper in our midfield at this point in time, and there's no room for Jasper in our forward line either. As I hop back onto my soapbox, there is a role for Jasper on our half-back line, and I think people are just, and this is Ford syndrome with Tommy Logan, there's always got to be one person that people aren't happy with, and Jasper is the go-to guy. He, I watched that first half again yesterday. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch the second half, but he made no mistakes in the first half, right? That resulted in a goal. So everyone is so hypersensitive of Jasper making a couple of mistakes resulting in goals when there's plenty of other players that are also making similar mistakes. It's going to happen. That's what's called AFL football. Get put under pressure and make a mistake results in a goal. That's credit to the opposition side. I mean, one of those turnovers from Jasper in the last quarter, as I put on the forum, was the fact that he could identify that Kane Corns was his first go-to player. He couldn't give it to Kane because Kane had Hannaby right on his clacker, right? If he handballed it to Kane, Kane would have got tackled. He would have got given holding the ball. So he tried to Kane, and then he tried to go on and he couldn't got tackled by Franklin. Now, I mean, what do people want? Do they want him just selling himself out of trouble to protect himself, giving it to the next player, so the next player then gets nailed and looks like the culprit? That's not what we're about. We're about a team, and so he was looking after his teammate there, tried to find another option, and he couldn't execute it because Buddy Franklin was too good and got him. I mean, that's going to happen, and half the team was falling over and slipping over in this game. So, I just think we all seem to be focusing on his mistakes, not as much as positives, and we seem to be glossing over a lot of the other players that are making mistakes as well. And again, we're in that developmental stage. We've just got to give it a bit more time. If we're this time next year and he's just as bad, well, then I would agree. Then he's had 2 good seasons, good consistency in trying to get a game in our side, and if he's not improving in 2 seasons with continuity, let's give him a bagging and maybe trade him off or do something. But he's been he's stuck by our club. He's signed a 3-year contract this year. He's Victorian that signed a 3-year contract this year. He's being rewarded for his pledge to the club, and he's performing well, and his defensive abilities has improved fantastically. His tackling's got immensely better. His reading of the play and intercepts a lot better. It's just that final decision making, and I'm sure that's going to come over the next season or 2.
Pittard podcast. Macca, can you bookmark this for 2015, please?
I can.
To say, and once we discuss this, and if he is in the same state, Rick will be championing the trading of Pittard thread. So I'm just making sure that we can bookmark this for future times.
Hey, I have been prone to putting up trade controversy before. Back in 2008, I suggested we trade Chad Corns and Sean Burgoyne. I got lambasted for that one, but I still maintain that. So if I see it, I'll call it, that's for sure.
Cheer, cheer the black and the white. Honour the Magpies day and by night. Live that loyal.
All right, well, let's go on to the SANFL, and the Maggies had another hard-fought win on the weekend by 23 points against Woodville West Torrens at Alberton Oval. They won 18 goals 16 to 15 goals 11. Big Mason Shaw with his breakout game, he's kicked 6 goals 1. Johnny Butcher has continued his goal-kicking run with 3 goals. And Brendan Archie and Tommy Logan kicked 2 goals each.
It's wonderful to see that. I think, is that 9 on the trot for the boys?
It is, yep.
Yeah, beautiful start to the season. After that out of the box loss to the Redlegs early on in the season to open up the SANFL season. But what I heard a little rumour that, because I don't get to see the games, that Flinney took some bloke out and has got a couple of weeks for it.
He did, yep. He's got 2 weeks. It was a front-on bump on Chris Kane, who had to go off with concussion. There's actually video footage of it on the SANFL website with a couple of different video angles of the bump. It was a pretty heavy bump. Looking at it, it's probably fair enough that he's got a week or 2 for it. The fact that Brad Crouch punched someone in the face and got 1 week for it, I think is pretty bloody ridiculous. But I think in Flinney's case, 2 weeks is arguably fair.
And from all accounts, from reading the forum, like he didn't even know that he'd kind of done something wrong. He's that like foreign to the game. Like he was kind of he apologised and went to the umpires trying to ask what he'd done wrong. So that kind of shows the naivety that he has for the game, and that'll just come with time. But when
it was a bloody huge hit. It was a big bump.
When he's a big boy, like he's not a small boy for an Irishman, but he's also doing it at such like ferocious pace. It's always going to end badly. So I'm glad that the kid's all right, and a couple of weeks he'll take his lumps and move on, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Could we get Flinney in against North Melbourne and he does that to Boomer Harvey?
We need someone to do something to Boomer Harvey.
He tests a new one every game.
But it was looking at the stats I was working. We seemed to be driven by 3 key midfielders this game, didn't we?
It looks like it, yeah. I mean, Summerton had a massive game again. I mean, it's his McGeary to lose, really. He had 37 touches, 10 marks and a goal. 10 inside 50s, that's massive. Sammy Gray continued his good form with 35 touches, and Benny Newton had 29 as well. A little bit inaccurate with 4 behinds, but he keeps on presenting himself for another AFL shot, which is great.
It'll come.
The interesting thing for me is a couple of the lesser likes had some bloody good games. I mean, that was probably Brendan Archie's best game. He had 20 touches and 10 marks and kicked 2 goals, including 1 late in the game. And for someone that's playing in a forward pocket, that's some bloody good numbers there. And Mason Shaw, that's his breakout game. 6 goals. That's a fantastic effort for someone so young.
Yeah, it's magnificent.
Absolutely.
Like he was languishing in South Reserves last year and come in and play a couple of games for South Seniors, playing as a second ruck. And I think that we would have seen more of a development if he hadn't busted his wrist early on this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops, and if he gets like a continuity of games with the lack of injuries, he could definitely develop. We've got some exciting key position prospects down at the Magpies at the moment. We've got Harvey, who will become a good player once he gets a bit more of a tank. We've got Butcher, who, like, you still say he got 3 goals, but I think he still kicked 4 behind. So he's
2 behind.
Two behind. Sorry. That goes for me to listen to somebody from South Australia today. But like, in that sense, like, we've got some good key position players coming through, and people say that we've got issues there, but we do have some young talent coming through. So it will be like, we do have some backups behind Schultze there, and I think that from what I understand of reading on the forums and the board, that Butcher's still a fair way away from coming back to the senior team. Would that be right, Macca?
You never know. I mean, there's plenty of people that still want him coming back every week and think we do need that third tall forward. I do agree with that. I think we do need a third tall up forward. And with Butcher, I think it's just a case of him presenting, just continuing to present, continuing on trying to improve his game, and doing the bread and butter right, you know, making his leads, taking those marks, calming himself down and kicking those goals. And I think he did that on the weekend. He had a very good game. And the one thing I really liked about Mason Shaw's game as well was that all his 6 goals came fairly different. You know, he took a big pack mark for one. He had a couple on a lead. He had a couple of running shots as well. So it shows his diversity as well.
No, that's great. And yeah, now I was going to ask, how's now that he's had a bit of like fitness into him, what's Nathan Cracker doing? Like, how's he going down at the Magpies?
He's been very good. You know, he's been very consistent. Could still lose a couple of kilos and get fitter, but he's certainly playing well off that sort of back flank and doing a sort of a Pittard job. Whether he's redraftable, I'm not too sure. You know, he's going to be 27 next year. I guess the main point is that do we actually need him at AFL level?
I don't think we do.
Especially when we've got others like Burn Jones coming through the system as well off a back flank. I mean, it would be good sort of experienced X factor for a rookie list spot maybe, but I certainly wouldn't pick him up in the main draft.
I think we're being thrown out this year by Jared Redden getting injured as well. It looks to me like we've really had a plan with Butcher, give him at AFL level and then go, look, this is what we want you to work on for the rest of the year, and take no pressure approach with him. You know, the calls, people are saying that Mason Shaw will be asking for more opportunities next year. To me, seem a little bit farcical. It's only his second year in the system, really. So first year he was raw, and this year he's still raw, as he pointed out, with his injury. So, I mean, again, for him and for Harvey, they're all, you know, Butcher should be coming on now, but the other two are still longer-term prospects. And really, you know, unless they're a Jonathan Patton type or Tom Boyd, they're probably not going to be in our AFL system in the seniors probably until maybe late next season, because it's going to take a while for them to physically develop. But
I would hope Mason Shaw starts pushing for games later on this year and becomes a regular next year.
Well, hopefully, but then I hope Jared Redden is pushing, because I mean, if we've got a choice between Shaw and Redden, who do we take?
Both.
Well, can't have both on the side.
Well, yeah, you can. I think you probably could have both on the side.
What? And
really?
like that makes us too top heavy, mate. Sorry, got to start.
Not sure.
So you had another 2 tools, and who are you going to drop?
Mitchell and Pittard. Play Mason Shaw off a back flank, mate. It would be perfect.
Now he's just trolling. Where's the cards? We fracked that guy.
Where is Tango when you need him?
She's upstairs. We're having a tiff.
Uh-oh.
All right, well, let's leave that there for now. Thanks for coming on, Crazy Big Hour. It was great to have you back on, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys. It was great to talk to you, and great to listen to the fantastic Rick get on and off his soapbox about Jasper. So I've had my Jasper fix for like the next millennium. So that's great.
That's it. Rick, as always, buddy. It's been fantastic.
Is he a bit sad?
He's upset now. You've upset him.
He's got his bat and ball and gone home.
He's gone to get Tango, I think. Here he is. He's back.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on again, buddy.
Thank you very much, and save the snakes.
That's random.
That's very, very random.
Come, Barry White. Barry White. Save the snakes.
He's trying to be funny.
Oh, he's still doing that, okay.
Man, trying to be funny. What? Come on now. That's not trying to be funny. That's funny in the context of our conversation. Come on, Al.
Not particularly.
Yeah, you know the Simpsons episode, Bashing the Snakes Day.
I know the reference, Rick. It's a good reference.
Barry White, save the snakes.
Seabourn now caught. Port Adelaide are beginning to build. Foster's kick is through half forward. Knocked away by Hodges. On the run is Rowan Smith. Bends it to the goal square.